message is fuck yourself, because that is so fucking absurd. What retarded...
They might be building noises next door because I don't know what the fuck they're doing. Building. So if that happens, I'm just gonna ignore it and go through it because we're adults. Or at least we try to act like that. So you remember that time those two guys who were saying that they had kidney disease or some shit were trying to get publicity and then everyone talked about it? Or whatever. Of course. That was a very succinct summary as well.
Fighting this kidney disease now for literally 4 years. And it's finally got the best of me. I can't literally fight it anymore. I'm holding 16 kilos of fluid in my body. And when I say fluid, it's literally because my kidneys can't filter my fluid out anymore.
And this also brings up the question of what else is there to be said about it. Now the answer to that is absolutely nothing. But as you know, I always like to delve into these things in some way or another, so at least maybe it will give you something to listen to in the background while you're doing more important things. Because that's really what I'm here for at the end of the day. So let's start at the beginning. The origin of... So our story begins with XtremeGamez, which is one of those like clickbait sort of generic channels that's like fidget spinner trend giveaway that doesn't exist. I mean, as you can see from the thumbnails, we don't really need to investigate too much of what their normal videos are like. You can see that it looks like Shroom on Shrooms pretty much. And I don't really know what it is with the fraudulent giveaways. Apparently that's just a thing now. I had no idea about it before it started like cropping up everywhere with that one cancer child. I don't remember what his name is. They got stupid clickbait shit. They got dying for views. They got anti-science pro-new age propaganda. Wait, what was that last one? That's new. So these two brave lads basically continue along their way to manipulate children by 1, having these really emotional moments that are obviously fake, 2, talking about like death. I mean, come on. And 3, just rounding it all off by visiting these weird doctors and then saying that, oh, normal science doesn't work even though there's tons of evidence for that, but it's a miracle because this random other thing worked and we've exposed the conspiracy of like health. Like they're talking about vaccines and there's this one part where it's like, you've taken a lot of vaccines but not as many as in America and that's lucky. And it's like, do you want to die or...
As right now, we're holding a giveaway, 2 iPhone X's, like we said in the last video.
Luckily, you guys are from Australia, so you only get about 2/3 the amount of shots that our kids are getting. In this country, it's 72 doses of 17 different vaccines. It's sick, because all of these cause inflammatory.
Basically, I suppose I should qualify what I'm saying as speculation, just in case anyone's getting really angry about it, whatever. But let's go through it. So, just out of the blue, one guy was like, oh, I have cancer? I have cancer. No, wait. Kidney disease, which is my favorite disease. So I had to talk about it. I actually wrote down cancer. Like, I'm so used to automatically saying cancer as a joke that it just becomes real at this point, and that's the first thing I say when someone says someone has something that affects them. That is actually really bad. It's a really shitty habit. And before anyone says anything, because the internet is full of idiots, obviously I'm not making fun of the fact that people have this and it's like a serious thing. I'm not making fun of people who have to try and find cures for it and live with it and blah blah blah. Obviously I'm making fun of the fact that people, aka fucking idiots, use this shit to get money and exploit the pain of others who actually go through it. I mean, I know that it's kind of obvious, but there's always that one person. The first thing that I want to point out is that it says "were" instead of "we are," and on top of that, the one guy has the thing, the other guy doesn't have it. And you can kind of tell as well, because throughout it they're like, oh, I have this thing and I'm gonna die and it's so bad, and then the other guy's like, well, as for me, I have vertigo. I have vertigo, yeah, vertigo, that's the thing I have. Now, there's something to say about whether or not they actually have those things, and don't get me wrong, people can, you know, cope with things in different ways, and people can actually have really bad things going on that they have to deal with, and I'm not saying that that's something that can't happen. I'm not saying that they have to be like 100% healthy and to be lying about every single thing, but for me it's more about the stuff that they're doing with it. I mean, even if they do have it, one, they're making it look like they don't, and secondly, it doesn't matter what qualification you have for victimhood, whether or not you're dying or not. If you're acting like an idiot, I'm just gonna say it. Like, I don't care how offensive that may be if someone's like, oh no, you can't say that because he actually has the disease. If you're being a fucking idiot and using it to gain money from people, you're still being a cunt, and that's just the truth. So regardless, I don't like what's happening. But they did do this thing when a bunch of people called them out where they were like, oh, 2 years ago I mentioned that I have medication, and then the other guy with his like 4-year-old Tia handwriting was like, make it look like I have something. I'm gonna make an attempt. So long story short, they were basically like, dude, we're sick and dying. Oh no, it's just me. Also, we're doing a fucking massive epic giveaway because that's what you do. So there's this entire other thing to be said about basically artificially inflating your views by doing these weird giveaways. I never really got the whole internet giveaway thing in the first place. Like, I understand competitions, those are fun. Art competitions are really fun because I like seeing the results. But the whole like subscribe to the channel and then get something, like, how do you know? Like, how do you know who likes the video? I didn't think that there would be like an email that you could get for that. I know you can get one for subscribers or something, and why the fuck would you leave that on? But that's really the only thing that you can do, and like how do you contact that person to do that, like, legitimately? That I never understood that. I never really understood how, like, okay, sure, you have high numbers like right now because of that, but if you ever want to do anything else, no one gives a shit. So like your career is over in like 2 seconds. I just don't get it. Regardless, why on earth would you do that? I mean, call me old-fashioned, but I figured that if you are dying, you would not focus on a giveaway and you would want to spend time with your loved ones offline. I mean, I know that everyone grieves a different way, but if I was dying or a friend was dying, I would not think about the internet. That would be the last thing that I would think about. I would just go and spend time with them and be like, how do I do this? How do I like maximize my time with you, and how do I like figure this shit out? It's a sad topic, but I don't think that this is appropriate. And yes, afterwards they got that backlash that I was talking about before, and then you got like this really weird thing where one of the Squidward looking motherfucker is crying, and then he's saying that his brother has 4 weeks to live. So wait, are they related? I can't remember. And then making this like garage band tier 4 chord weird mess that he probably got someone else to write and then didn't credit them to make it look like he's so emotional that he wrote it himself.
Guys, the doctor just told us that Johnny's got 4 weeks to live.
Because that'll do it. So then after that, obviously that didn't really do anything. So get this, it gets worse. What would you do after this? After all of that, let's say you're like this weird mastermind of clickbait who decided to do this and then just double down with it, because they doubled down with it. So what would you do? Would you A, decide to maybe, you know, do a more subtle approach? Be like, oh well, the doctor told us that he was dying, we're slowly getting a recovery, it's gonna be okay, we're trying to emotionally recover from it, and then you take a break to like have a meeting with your boardroom and see if you can figure this shit out to maximize their profit, right? I mean, that's despicable, but I'm just looking at it from the perspective of someone despicable. But no, that's not what they did. These legends, these people who took all of the brain force tablets before making this up, decided that they were going to put a shit ton of religious imagery around all of the things on their video, and then claim every other doctor couldn't help us, but this homeopathy doctor, who is clearly anti-science, anti-vaxxer, could sort of help us. But the ultimate thing that helped us was Jeebus. My kidneys healed from Jesus.
I was sick one day, I had edema in my legs, we didn't know what it was at the time, and my dad said let's go to the GP. We went to the GP, he told us to go to the hospital immediately. What I did was, went to a natural healing doctor that at the same time couldn't heal me either. He tried, he couldn't, I have 4 weeks left to live. Tommy was crying because he was upset in that video.
And then comes the evidence for the backlash that they were addressing, and it's beautiful. And I shit you not, it's like worse than any other responses to backlash that I've seen, and I've seen some pretty bad ones. They actually say, I forgive you for making those videos.
Prove anything to anyone. What we want to say first of all is we forgive every single one of you guys that has created a hate video on us.
What are you, Jesus? I can live my life without being forgiven for this. But they basically do that thing where they try and seem like high and mighty, like, I am above the hate, I'm not listening to the haters, and then making all the criticism and blatant, you know, evidence look like it's just people who are really jealous for some reason. Like, yeah, I'm totally jealous of having kidney disease. So it's like, oh, it's so obvious that criticism equal bad, so that means that we don't have to talk about this stuff. And we are so loving that we're going to forgive you for making things that dare to criticize us, the gods of the internet and kidney disease. So that's it, right? That has to be it. Nope. So they make yet another video where they're both very not dead looking at all, might I add, and talk about the truthness of the dying matter. So this guy takes out a folder that is obviously inferior to my binder, and he says, look at the folder, and then proceeds to put it below the line of where the camera can see so you can't see it, and then basically says that he got cured because science. And he says how there was nothing wrong with him, it was all in his mind, and also someone got cured from autism or something. It was this really weird tangent where he was like, oh yeah, by the way, autism is a thing that can be curable. Backed up by what research, excuse me?
A lot of people out there were calling me specifically a liar, and I do not like people that lie. And he said that there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. And he was telling me that it's all in my head. Now this is a guy, so it's kind of like, imagine you had eye cancer. You had cancer behind your eye, so you couldn't actually see it, but it's there. And then you go into the doctors and they do scans on you and they tell you it's not there. And you can feel the physical pain every single day, and you're getting told it's not there. That's kind of like what
We saw a kid come in and completely autistic, their arm is spazzing, their leg's spazzing, and 3 months later, they can actually function relatively normal. It's crazy when we actually saw this happen.
It's kind of like they were doing a show and then got bored of the character arc, so they were just like, oh, never mind, whatever, fine. Kidney Homeboy was like, oh, Jesus healed me, so everything's fine now. And then they were basically saying that they made the dying brother thing because they thought that the guy was gonna die at the time, but then apparently as soon as the videos came out and they managed to make money off it, they magically figured out that he wasn't dying, like at the time. Brilliant. Again, I don't know about you, but if I heard that someone was dying, I would ignore the internet and just focus on them, and then after they died, after I grieved and everything, then I would be like, oh shit, bad news, and then talk about it for the internet to know. Like who gives a shit? If it's like someone in your life who's dying, they should take priority, not your fucking subscribers. And it seems like they're kind of over it too, because if you look at their channel, they're like straight back into it. Like even after all of this like trauma and shit that they, like, let's say hypothetically they went through, they're like, no, it's fine. Emotions are for humans. Now it's just time to make whatever the fuck that recent video is that I'm not watching, by the way. But you're gonna have to do it yourself. Make your own commentary. I think it's a funny thing. It's a very, very funny place that we're in right now, where people do this sort of shit and you know that there won't be any consequence. Like, hear me out. People will dislike it for a while, there will be backlash of course, people will talk about it and, you know, try and figure out what's really going on, people will make 1,000 expose videos on those people, but in the end, it'll die down, people will jump onto the next thing that makes them angry, and then it'll just continue. They'll just continue doing what they do, and then the next thing that came along will move on, and it's just kind of a cycle, and you could argue that that's a bad thing, and I do, but honestly, it's what it is, and as long as you can kind of make something fun out of it, whatever. I mean, YouTube certainly won't do shit about it. I mean, if you think that they're actually gonna do something about it, then you don't know what the fucking website is. But what can you do? You can take a shit on it, you can laugh at it, you can gawk at it, and that's it. That's it. That's just how it'll be.